everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Robin, or Hobbit's Reading List, and today we are going to figure out what I'll be reading in the month of May. My power may go out because it's currently thunderstorming, and my power's been flickering, so that'll be fun and exciting. I've never played my TBR game by candlelight before, so there's that happening. But I am taking a quick weekend trip down to Arkansas around the middle of the month because my sibling is graduating from high school, so obviously I'm going to be there. But other than that, I don't really have much going on this month, and I don't think I can build a TBR around my sibling graduating. So we don't really have a theme. But you know what? I said this last month, but I'm really gonna lean into books that I'm excited about. Yes, I did this last month too. I stand by it. However, I have sort of landed into, while I read a lot of books that I was very excited about, that I enjoyed, for the most part, that I thought I would enjoy, I am currently kind of in a slump. Neither of the books that I'm currently reading are really doing much for me. And I'm gonna try to get through them as quickly as possible so that I can start my May TBR. So there's that. But I really have not been feeling the best, and I'm not sure how clear that has been in my vlogs, but my mood, mental health, what have you, has not been the best, and I really just need to do what I can. So that's gonna be my focus. Books that I want to read. Shocking. There are a surprising amount of books that I have interest in for various reasons, but they are not necessarily books that I want to read. So that's why it's clear, that's why it's important that I make this clear. If this is your first TBR game of mine, sorry. I play a game called TBR Pursuit, which is using the Lord of the Rings Trivial Pursuit board. Each color represents a different genre that is one of the 6 most popular that are on my physical shelves, which are LGBT, romance, classic, Jewish, fantasy, and psychology. No hesitation that time. I'm getting better. I still don't do them in any consistent order. I do also have the bigger spots at the end of each spoke. That is miscellaneous, so that counts for the other genres that I have on my shelves because I'm very eclectic. I'm looking at my nonfiction shelves, which is, they're double stacked, which I hate, but I don't have any more room to expand my library, so whoops. And then I do also have these purple roll again spots that add a book to my TBR. We may do that, we may not. For the first time ever, I do not have any additional books that I need to read this month. I am taking a very brief pause from Woodhouse. I will not be reading Woodhouse this month. I will pick up another book in June. But, so no Woodhouse. I don't have a book club that I need to read a book for. This is just books for me. It's just my TBR. Which means I will probably do a roll again. Because I need to also get caught up on my reading goal. And having 7 books, which is what I usually roll, is not enough to do that. So, let's just jump into the game. So, the first roll means I pretty much get to pick what genre, because I need to pick a direction. Alright, 5. So that means it'll be on this, first one. You know what? It's spring. Let's go for romance. I don't know why spring equals romance in my mind, but it does. Okay. It's a book with a holiday. Alright? A romance book with a holiday is a little bit hard because, and I've mentioned this before, but if it's not a, like, usually a winter holiday book, they don't really advertise that there's a holiday within books unless it's, like, specific. So I went with More Reason to Stay, which is a Kindle book that I got for free last June. And it is the second in a series, but it can be read as a standalone. And it follows a guy who does not have a name. It follows this actor, I guess. There was like this big scandal and like his movie flopped and he went to this like small town to like get away from the attention. And he stays at this bed and breakfast. And apparently the owners are very invested in his love life. And he has already like hooked up with a man in the town who is a plumber, I believe. And they keep like coming together and people are like getting invested in like getting them together and encouraging the actor to go to this like fall festival as like presumably a date. It's supposed to be like, it says it's snarky and like has a happy ending, which it should as a romance book, but it looks really interesting. And I'm assuming because of the fall festival that there is a holiday, whether that is like, well, would it be Labor Day? Because I feel like that's too early, but presumably Halloween or Thanksgiving, depending on like where in fall they are. So I'm just sort of guessing that there's a holiday. But it does look really cute. Okay, so I can either do miscellaneous or fantasy. I'll do miscellaneous, although the chances of me getting a book that I'm excited about is low. Okay. A health book. Great. Now, eagle-eyed viewers may notice I'm wearing different clothes than I was when I filmed the intro. And part of that is because I ran out of time on Monday, which is when I was filming. I was going to film the rest Tuesday morning, edit it, and get it out. But boy, oh boy, was I not feeling good about myself. For many reasons, but a large part due to my body. You know, we all have insecure days. And that makes it just like a little bit funnier that on Monday, even though I didn't have time to film, I did pick out my books. Monday, I picked out Body Kindness. And I think when it got to Tuesday and when I could film, I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm not in a place where I can talk about body kindness right now. So it's Thursday. But Body Kindness, which I have already started. I read the introduction instead of like journaling the other day, just because I'm like, you know what, I need encouragement. I have reflected on why I feel bad. I don't need to write it down. Even though writing it down can be very useful a lot of the time, I read part of this instead. So Body Kindness is essentially like, a lot of it is reframing and getting away from this idea that like we have to be a certain size, and in order to be that certain size that society dictates, we have to starve ourselves and not have any joy and be miserable as long as we look thin. Which I wholeheartedly agree with, and I am a victim of that. And a large reason why I don't feel good about my body is because I'm constantly being like, it's constantly being shoved in my face that like I am not considered healthy because I'm fat. Even though like physically I am pretty healthy. I'm a pretty healthy person. And my body is capable of doing a lot of things, and I acknowledge that a lot of the time. And I thought that this would be helpful to make me acknowledge that more of the time. So I am looking forward to reading this. I think it'll be really useful to sort of like make the stupid part of my brain that hates myself shut up. 4. That's psychology. That's psychology. Or classic. Alright, I guess I'm going classic, because I really don't want to read a psychology book, even though I have plenty I could. Alright, classic. A classic with winter vibes. Awesome. Okay, this is probably like the 4th or 5th time I've put this book on my TBR. And I can't honestly explain why it's winter vibes, because I don't know. But One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I think it's because I know it takes place in a, like, residential facility. And in my mind, and also on, like, the, like, different cover art, residential facilities, and this is a generalization based off of media, pretty much, and also the cover of this book in different editions. But I picture residential facility as, like white walls, very sterile, kind of cold. And so I think that's why it gives me winter vibes, even though I don't actually know what season this book takes place in. All I know is that this guy, McMurphy, goes to the residential facility and really kind of, like, shakes things up. Like, everyone else there is kind of, like, sunken into their routines and the, like, abuse that they suffer from, like, some of the staff, and they've just kind of accepted their lot in life. And then this new guy comes in, McMurphy, and he really just, like, pulls everything out. So it does sound really interesting. I will say, because this has been on my TBR like 4 or 5 times before this, I have started the audiobook before, and I really didn't like it. However, I don't know if that's because of the narrator, or because of the book, or because of maybe I just wasn't in the right place. So I did DNF it, but I'm going to try to read it physically and see if that helps and if I enjoy it more. So yeah, we will see. This will, well, I can't even say that because I can't guarantee that I will get to it this month, but if I get to it, this will be the last time I'm trying this book. A 2, so that's a roll again, or fantasy. Let's just do a roll again. Let's just... Alright, so now my TBR will be up to 8. 5. 2, 3. LGBT, fantasy, or miscellaneous. Ugh. I really hate going back into the spokes. Let's do I feel like I haven't had a fantasy book in a while. Oh, okay. A fantasy book with the best cover. Love that. I wouldn't necessarily consider this a fantasy book. I would say it's more sci-fi, because there are literally aliens in it. But on Storygraph, it's listed as a fantasy book, so therefore, I can pick it. And best cover is subjective. And I really want to read this book. So, The Eye of the Bedlam Bride. This is the 6th book in the Dundercrawler Carl series, which follows Carl after Earth has been invaded and kind of destroyed, and any human survivors are put into this competition. They have to make it through 18 levels of this game that serves as entertainment for the rest of the galaxy. And whatever survivors make it to the 18th level get to, like, rule Earth and, like, rebuild it however they choose to. However, no one has done that. There have been many, many, many iterations of this game in other planets, and no one has made it past, I want to say the 13th level? Like, I don't remember exactly. It's either 12, 13, or 14. But I remember it's not close. And so, this is the 6th book where they're on a floor that I don't want to say because it might be a spoiler. And obviously there's not a lot I can talk about because of spoilers. But I'm very interested. Also, it's thick. It's, God, how many pages is it? It's like 800 pages. And I'm getting all the hard copies, even though they're more expensive, because the the hard copy usually gives like a hint of what is happening in the book, but not like a good hint that you only get after you read it. Wow, that's not helpful. It says, I need a baby seal. Well, now I'm even more interested because I really don't know what that could be referring to. I can't wait. So, yeah, I'm very excited to get to this. Another 4. Miscellaneous or a romance. Miscellaneous or romance. You know what, I'm gonna go over here because I want to get my little Frodo closer to the camera. This is gonna bite me in the butt. Oh no, I mean, actually, this is kind of a good thing. My dad gets to pick my book. He was so happy about not having to pick a consequence book, too. Okay, so I had told I think I mentioned this, I had told my dad that he didn't need to pick a consequence book, which is great. But then I called him later, and I'm like, so you don't need to pick a consequence book, but you do need to pick a book for me to read. And he went through all of the books on my TBR, which was very nice of him because they're like 260 or something. And he asked me some questions. I sort of told him that my theme was like books that I'm excited about, but like he doesn't have to stick with that. But he was very nice to me. And he picked Role Model, which is the 5th book, in the Heated Rivalry, 5th book in the Game Changers series, which is the series that Heated Rivalry is based off of. This follows Troy and Harris. Troy in previous books is a major asshole. And we learn that part of that is a protective strategy. And he is actually sort of breaking away from that in a very public way. So he gets traded to Ottawa, which is a more inclusive team, or trying to be at least. And he meets Harris, who is Ottawa's social media manager, and they end up getting to know each other and becoming close. And it's a romance book, so where do you think it goes? I have heard from a lot of people that this is a lot of people's like second favorite book. I think for a few people I've seen that it is their favorite book, but most people put this as their second favorite. So I'm very curious about this because I know a lot of what happens just because I'm in the Heated Rivalry like fandom, but I'm very curious to read it for myself. It's fantasy. That's roll again. That's roll again. You know what? Yeah, let's go for it. Because I really hate going back up to this, folks, because then I find it very difficult to get back out. So, let's do it. 9 books. Perfect. Wait, what am I doing? Okay. So, LGBT, or roll again. Alright, let's go LGBT. I can't believe it's taking this long for me to get it LGBT. What the? Winter vibes. My game doesn't realize it's spring. Now, I can't be positive that this is in winter. However, The Missing Page by Sebastian. Sebastian is kind of like an auto-buy author for me. And last summer, I got the first book of this series, which I think was Hither Page. And it's kind of, like, it is an LGBT romance, but there's also, like, a mystery element to it, which was really well done. I sort of started picking up on the clues that were being put down, and I kind of figured it out by the end, which is good. That's what I want. I want to have a suspicion and then have it confirmed, like, 20 pages later. I don't want to have a suspicion at the beginning and then find out that I'm correct. So I think the mystery element was really well done. And that book took place in the winter, I think around Christmas time. So I sort of just assumed, also based off of like the trees, I just sort of just assumed that this would also take place in winter. The book follows James, who was an army medic in World War II, and he settled down in this village. And in Hither Page, he met Leo Page, who was a spy, essentially. And in this book, James, who's the doctor, gets summoned to Cornwall because an uncle that he, had fallen out of touch with left something in his will. There, he reunites with some family members, but also is tasked, along with the other heirs, to figure out where this woman who went missing 20 years ago, figure out what happened to her. And James's boyfriend, Leo, doesn't necessarily like that, finds it weird and suspicious, and also he's a spy, so he's paranoid. So he also joins this little, will party to make sure that James is okay, and they sort of work together to figure out the mystery. So, I really enjoyed the first book. I have no reason to think I won't enjoy this, so... 4, 5, fantasy. Roll again. Or miscellaneous. Well, as the previously established rules in this game, I guess I'm going miscellaneous. Oh. Oh dear. Okay. A miscellaneous book about race. I had, I say 4 or 5. I like learning things. And I had briefly considered being a sociology major. So I have a lot of books about a lot of different subjects, and also I think it's always good to learn more about other people's experiences and have more empathy for people. So, let's see if I can do, there we go. When and Where I Enter, which is about the impact of Black women on race and sex in America. I'm just going to read a sentence from the back because I think it does a really good job of sort of summarizing what the book is about. Drawing on speeches, diaries, letters, and other original documents, Paula Giddings powerfully portrays how Black women have transcended racist and sexist attitudes, often confronting white feminists and Black male leaders alike, to initiate social and political reform. I love that, and that's probably a big reason why I picked this up. Because even when doing my literature major, we talked a lot about the feminist movement and the writings that came out and how Black women were not included in the first wave. So I'm really excited to read some original works because that was something that I didn't get in any of my schooling. 4, 2, 3, 4 is romance. Classic. Romance it is. Okay, a romance book that is first in the series. This is another one of my Kindle books. It's Sweat Connection, and I'm now wondering if both of the Kindle books I picked feature a love interest that is a plumber. I think they do, because Sweat Connection is about a single bisexual dad who is sort of struggling, and he hires this plumber because he's having issues, and the plumber is very attractive, and there's sort of this instant connection, and I believe they, run into each other, and it sort of just develops from there. But it's promoted as high heat and low angst, a single dad romance with trivia nights, Star Wars rants, and light primal kink that reads as a standalone. So I'm like, oh, okay. So, all things I'm interested in. Alright, so for what will probably be the last roll, a 2. So that's a roll again. Or LGBT. I'm going to go ahead and go LGBT. LGBT book with royalty. This was so easy because I literally just got this book, and I'm so excited because I've never read a book like this. The Beheading Game. Now, if you've been watching my vlogs recently, you'll know that I went through a period in high school where I was obsessed or hyperfixated on Anne Boleyn. So I know a lot about Anne Boleyn, and I have read a lot of Anne Boleyn books, and I have never read a book like this. So this takes place after Anne is beheaded. She wakes up afterwards, finds her head. Well, her head is at her knees, wrapped in linen. Reattaches her head and vows to get revenge on Henry. And she ends up sort of like teaming up with this sex worker, and they become close, which I'm just like, a lesbian Anne Boleyn, or bisexual Anne Boleyn, or just into women Anne Boleyn. It's my dream come true. It makes so much sense. So yeah, I'm just fascinated, and I really want to read this. So yeah, that's it. I think I did a decent job at picking books that I am interested in and excited about. So yay me. But if you've read any of these books or have any of these books on your TBR, please leave me a comment. I'd love to talk about them. Otherwise, like the video, subscribe, click notification bell so that you can get notified whenever I upload a video, so that you can see my reactions to these books in mostly real time. And I will talk to you in the next vlog. Bye!